Good afternoon to the media and to the listening public. You may recall that on October 13th of this year, I put out an invitation to the young students of Bermuda to share with me their thoughts on the issue of climate change and with the international audience. I set out this challenge to students 18 years and younger to submit written pieces of up to 100 words, pictures, and graphics, or video of up to 60 seconds on the following topics: biodiversity, marine environment, land sustainability, climate resilience, and emissions. The winners would be considered for inclusion in the message that I would take representing Bermuda to the upcoming COP26 conference in Glasgow, Scotland. While we would have liked for there to be an overflow of submissions, I recognize that during this time, schools, both public and private, some are in home learning from distance and using technology, and clearly with the process of getting back into school, there's been a lot of disruption. So there's been a challenge with perhaps students being able to fully participate in this particular project. The impact on our students and their resilience to overcome is not taken lightly by any of us in the government. And I wish to take this opportunity to recognize the effort of our Bermuda school students in overcoming the challenges that they have faced with their education and trying to live through the pandemic. And thus, submitting creative pieces for this contest might have been a challenge in order to express their thoughts on the issue of climate change. But I now have the pleasure of publicly announcing two winners of the competition: 14-year-old Katia Williams of Warwick Academy and 12-year-old Gabriela Cabral of Delwood Middle School. Ms. Williams voiced her frustrations over humanity's negative impact on the environment by submitting a written piece on our marine environment. She identified it as a home of billions of creatures and its potential as an essential source of energy and medicine. Ms. Cabral also spoke about the marine environment by submitting a PowerPoint presentation that touched on how it affects humans and the impact on global warming. Many are familiar with the saying, "A picture paints 1,000 words." In the production were photos depicting the harmful effects of humankind on marine life. I wish to congratulate these young people. They have won the competition. Our young people has emerged, as we've all been able to see over the past couple of years, as a strong voice in the global environmental movement, and this government wanted to take the time to give them a voice so that they can be heard, like so many other children around the world. And young people, Bermuda's young people, should be heard when it comes to the issues that will affect them in their future. While on the topic of climate change and our environment, I just wish to highlight and update the public on the Ministry of Home Affairs activities over the month of October that are focused on educating and informing the public on several issues. First and foremost is the ongoing consultation on the regulations of single-use plastics in Bermuda, which has seen many members of the public share comments, suggestions, or concerns on the planned timetable and the scope of the proposed legislation. If you have not had the opportunity to review the information and share your views, it actually is not too late. However, you have until October 31st to do so In alignment with the consultation, the ministry is publicly communicating several tips on how to reduce our dependency on single-use plastics. One of the tips, and something that I do when ordering takeout, is to eat at home and to ask the restaurant to skip the condiments, the napkins, and the plastic utensils. If everyone did this one act, that certainly would start to make a difference. Also, this month, the team at the Department of Environment and Natural Resources has been in the community, on the radio, doing interviews, and answering questions every week to educate and inform the public on the important issues that are going on in Bermuda around the environment. Some of these have included why shipwrecks matter, reef and water quality, Bermuda's recovery of endangered species, pelagic fishery and the protection of sharks, Bermuda's response to climate change and the expected impact on air quality, protected species preservation, plant protection, and seagrass preservation. Many topics that center around our environment that the department and the team have gone to the community to discuss. I want to thank all involved for contributing to these worthwhile discussions, those who were doing the presentations and those who were listening. That's the vital information that was shared about our environment and addressing climate change to the public was important to our plans and our journey to COP26 as a department, as a ministry, and as a government. With all that said, the student submissions in hand, I look forward to journeying to Scotland and representing Bermuda as the chair of the UK Overseas Territories Association by way of our London office at the 2021 Conference of Parties, known as COP26 Conference. That will be held in Glasgow, Scotland. I will have the responsibility of ensuring that a showcase is made of the association's work and all of its members, all of the overseas territories, in tackling climate change and protecting our unique terrestrial and marine environments. As the highlight of Bermuda's involvement in COP26, the UK Pavilion during COP26, Nature Day will be on November 6th, and I will lead an event entitled Our Vision for Healthy Oceans. The event will be thematically focused on raising awareness, protecting our oceans, and how the overseas territories are taking action against climate change. Also through the day, a video collaboration of all of the overseas territories will be featured on the COP26 YouTube channel, with Bermuda first and foremost. A link will be provided to the public so that you can not only see what happens on Nature Day, but certainly be able to watch and observe the deliberations throughout the 2 weeks of COP26. And I'm so happy to be able to not only take the Bermuda message to Glasgow, but also to represent Bermuda in a leading role with ensuring that as small island communities, we will have a voice, we will have a say in ensuring that our image and the work that we're doing is being properly represented internationally and in the global community. One thing that needs to be said is that Nature Day is actually going to be a day where the overseas territories in the UK Pavilion will be featured on that day. So we will be chiefly featured as a group of territories on that day at the UK Pavilion at COP. And that's certainly a great opportunity for the world to not only see about Bermuda, but also to see the significant contribution to marine health, the marine prosperity, and how much biodiversity the overseas territories, all 14 of them, contribute to the world, along with the UK. But in particular, the majority of that biodiversity exists within the overseas territories, and we continue to exist as the fourth largest marine estate in the world. So this is important, and I look forward to making the appropriate representation on behalf of Bermuda and all the overseas territories. So I wish to thank everyone for being here and listening to this statement, and I'm happy to take any questions from the media present.
Thank you, Minister. At this time, we welcome questions from the media.
Thanks for that, Minister. You'd mentioned briefly the protection of sharks as one issue of protecting the environment. Is there anything you can elaborate on that? What discussions have taken place, and if any decisions are in the making on that?
Yes, I'm happy you brought that up. I think one of the things that has been learned over a number of years, and some recent years, is that despite the image that sharks have of a very fierce and perhaps somewhat unpopular species, they are crucial to the marine environment. And the depletion of the amount of species of sharks in the last decades has been frightening and alarming. And there is now an international rush to protect a number of species of shark that are at risk of being lost. And they play a huge role in the biodiversity of all of our oceans. So we are certainly signing up to the international effort and conventions, and we are currently, drafting the appropriate legislative measures to make the catching and the killing of certain shark species unlawful within our waters. And we're doing that now, and that process is being completed. It is a legislative process, but we have committed to that, and we're doing that.
Can you elaborate on what species we were looking to outlaw?
I can mention at least one or two: tiger shark, mako, but there are others. Everybody kind of links on to like the great whites and the more fiercer shark species, but there are numerous shark species, some that are predators and some that are not predatory. And all of these shark species are of concern to us in protecting, particularly those that exist in our waters, some in greater numbers, some is not. But I can give you more specific information on the species that we are looking to protect. I'm happy to provide it to you later.
Okay, thank you. You've mentioned that consumers, you're encouraging them when they're to eat at home and to contact restaurants and ask them, not to provide these plastics. Will the government consider being a little more proactive with the restaurants themselves and suggesting to the restaurants that they either don't use plastic or only issue it if it is requested of them, to be a little bit more proactive with the restaurants and discourage plastic use?
Well, thank you for that question. As you know now, the consultation period continues, and within that consultation document are all of the types of measures we're looking at. But this is going to be a phased approach, and so I'm not going to speak about doing anything sort of direct at this point on what we're going to do to restaurants. That's not the type of process we're looking to engage in. We have had this extensive consultation period because we want to hear from those establishments. We want to hear from businesses, small businesses, and other service businesses in Bermuda, which actually we would all accept through the past couple years, certainly through COVID, have had a hard challenge. We see the struggle of our restaurants and our other service industries, and I'm not interested in doing anything, even if it's for the environmental good, on necessarily putting them in a difficult position with imposing anything on them. And certainly our proposal doesn't operate in that way, but we have a phased approach, and there will be obviously some items that in the more immediate, as we phase out, we will look to see discarded and no longer used. But I would encourage everyone to go and look at the consultation document and see how we've laid out how we would like to see this happen. But again, it's not a process that we're looking to impose an uncomfortable procedure or rules on restaurants at this point. We want to have a cooperative approach. I think everybody accepts that the use of single-use plastics is detrimental to our environment, and we can change our approach on how we deal with these issues. That's so that we can have a cleaner and we can be safer. And as we see what's happening to our oceans and other parts of our environment, that plastics, unfortunately, are contributing to.
Plastics are certainly a major problem when we're talking about ocean health.
Yes.
But they are not recycled in Bermuda. Is that something that is being considered by the government, allowing for plastics to be recycled or dealt with differently?
That's a global problem, and Bermuda is no more equipped to deal with the recycling of plastics than any other part of the world. There are some plastics which are repurposed, which are collected and packaged and repurposed and reconfigured into other items, and there's some plastics that cannot be. So we currently, and I think we've already articulated this very clearly, most of the plastics and the majority of plastics enter into the waste stream. They are disposed of, they are burnt, and contribute to the usage of waste to energy. So a considerable amount of the plastics that are used in Bermuda, that are used as single-use plastic, get disposed and then are burned. Although there is obviously a problem of like litter, I'm not trying to ignore that. But the lion's share of plastics actually get disposed and are burned and used in a purpose that at least contributes to energy production. But as you would be aware, the repurposing and reusing of single-use plastics is difficult, other than because that's a manufacturing process, and as far as I know, there isn't anybody on the island who's embraced any sort of plastic manufacturing of that volume. But we intend to use a process that we put in place to address single-use plastics as a process where we can find ways on how we can responsibly handle single-use plastics. And as you know, there are some plastics that are going to remain with us for a while because they have other usage, such as in like the medical field. There are plastics that contribute to the safety and proper handling of perishable items. Until the market has alternatives, we're going to have to use those responsibly as best we can, but educate the public on their proper use and disposal. So that's what we will do over time, but this is a phased process on what we can do with plastics. I'm not suggesting now that maybe in a few years there'll be options of repurposing certain plastics once that technology is available, but right now that's a global problem of plastics that are disposed of, finding other uses for them. There are sometimes they're used as aggregate for roads and other building products, or some can be cleaned and reused for other things, or they're used to make plastic bins and other types of things, but only certain plastics can actually be used for that purpose, not all of them. So we, like the rest of the world, are trying to do our part and participate in a responsible way of ultimately removing the use of single-use plastics in Bermuda.
Can you give any indication as to how many submissions have been made so far in this consultation?
No, I cannot. I can get you that information. We can do that after the consultation is finished, and all the information and reports about what was received, and we can give it to you after that. At this point, I would prefer to wait till it's finished, and then we can give you a full report on what has happened with the consultation process.
Okay, and then I hope you don't mind me asking, but can you give any update on the solar finger?
Sure.
As to when it would be ready and hooked up to the grid?
Yes, I'm happy to give an update, as one of your colleagues asked at the last press conference for that. I have received an update that from the regulatory authority on the current situation with the finger, and the expectation is that imminently that project will be in operation. Imminently could mean a number of weeks, but I'm not the operator, so I cannot give you the details. Perhaps if you wish to contact the operator, Saturn Power, they can give you more details on the exact. But I've been assured by the regulator that all of the regulatory issues or any other issues that were with them are done, and that the appropriate processes for them to begin operation are in place. And the word I was given was imminently.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you to the listening public.
All right, thank you, Minister, and everyone. Have a great day.